Okay, so here's the deal with fauxtina. Modern watches use glow-in-the-dark paint like luminova to allow the watch to be seen at night, but vintage watches used to use radium or tritium, which are radioactive materials, and would actually degrade over time, which could lead to the handset or the indices taking on a sort of creamy hue. As the vintage watch market has blown up, some contemporary watchmakers have chosen to incorporate nods to their back catalog in their modern pieces. Some are more subtle than others. One particularly polarizing choice is the use of creamy or sand-colored lume on modern watches that sort of mimics the color that radium or tritium would take on as it degraded. Omega, Hamilton, Seiko, JLC, Tudor, Blancpain, Breguet, and even some high-end brands like Laurent Ferrier and Patek use this so-called fauxtina color on some of their designs. According to Jack Forster's 2020 piece on the topic, the term fauxtina can be dated back over a decade at this point and was in common use as far back as 2012 on the Time Zone forum. It's a common gripe to this day. So what's so bad about it? I think at its core, fauxtina is offensive to so-called watch guys because it implies a history to the watch that the watch simply doesn't have. Think of it like buying distressed jeans that come from the store with threadbare knees, implying heavy use as workwear or aping the style of the punk movement from the 70s. I think at its worst, fauxtina gives the watch a been there, done that vibe that just hasn't been earned through years of hard use like its vintage older brothers. Opponents of fauxtina argue that even though modern luminous materials won't degrade in the same way as radium or tritium, modern watches should be allowed to take on their own patina that's authentic to them through dings, scratches, and other unforeseen consequences like the fading of a dial. That said, it's not all bad. At the end of the day, fauxtina is just a color choice that's available to designers, and in my opinion, if you set aside your preconceived notions, it actually can be done well if done with care. IWC in particular is a master of using non-white colored lume on their watches, using black, green, gray, blue, and yes, even fauxtina cream to great effect. When done subtly and in service of a more cohesive design theme, it can work. My favorite example from IWC is their Mojave Desert Pilot's Chrono, which uses that fauxtina colored lume to match the case. They also have a really cool Ceratanium time zoner, which uses gray lume in service of a blacked out stealthy aesthetic. Also worth mentioning that Rolex famously used orange lume on their Milgauss, and Doxa deserves a shout out for their subtle use of off-white in their 300T. Let me know what you think. Does anyone pull off fauxtina successfully? If so, let me know your favorites.